Part 30. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 291. 9999, just 1 point short of completing the points task. Tao Ran has been waiting for that moment. But until the afternoon, her points remained unchanged. The evil intentions of the big guys became more and more obvious, and they wanted to force her to start from scratch. Although Tao Ran felt that it was not too difficult to score points, why should she be led by the nose like this? Therefore, she had no intention of redeeming the points. She's quite busy. Since we plan to spend more than 20 days on the top of the mountain, we must first make arrangements as comfortable as possible. She first directed people to weave soft ladders out of rattan. She climbed up to the tallest and largest tree on the top of the mountain and chopped off all the branches and leaves on one of the thick branches that blocked her view. This tree serves as a lookout. In this way, you don't have to patrol around to prevent predators from killing you. You can just sit on this thick branch and look around. Put up a soft ladder again to make it easier for everyone to get up and down. Quite successful. A group of people cut down several trees and worked together to design a triangular pavilion that would provide protection from rain and sun. There is an inexhaustible supply of trees in the mountains, and they have enough manpower. After setting up the wooden frame, they quickly covered the roof with branches. Tao Ran also studied the making of clay pots with several women. They kneaded the mud by the stream and adjusted several levels of dryness and humidity. There is a mother who is very clever and can make earthen pots that are flat, smooth, and stylish. Dig a depression in the mound, put the earthen pot in it, chop firewood to set up a hollow and light it. After struggling for a long time, by dusk, they had fired 3 successful earthen pots. Everyone was overjoyed. In this way, you can heat hot water in the future. They didn't waste the remaining mud they picked out. They patted it into tiles and sent it all into the pit to be burned. That night, they drank hot soup for the first time. The dried meat was sliced and stewed in an earthen pot, and soon the aroma was overflowing. Tomorrow, let's make 40 more bowls. Everyone cut the finished pure water bottles into 2, each person scooped a bowl of broth, and dipped the biscuits in. It was just right, and it tasted like meat porridge. For the first time in the past few days, the stomachs that had tightened due to the dry food were relieved. Everyone felt satisfied and their desire to get out alive became stronger. They are comfortable here, but it's a mess down there. Through the telescope today, they saw that there were clearly different factions in the green area, and many people started to head towards the top of the mountain. There was even a fight between 2 groups of people, and the situation was terrible. The night passed. Everyone is waiting for the so-called constriction to arrive at 8 o'clock. The numbers jump a little bit. When all the timer numbers reached 0, the ocean swallowed up all places except the mountainous areas. There is endless water all around. Everyone opened their mouths in disbelief. Although the previous tsunami flooded the dense forest, the crowns of the tall trees were still above the water. But now, nothing is left. There is no dense forest, and there is no one on the water, just water. All you can see is water. Everything happened in an instant, it was too unreal. Tao Ran was also horrified. How ridiculous. It is indeed a game. That is, in games, such unscientific scenarios can happen. But this game is too real. She thought about the so-called holographic games in the world she was in, were they similar to this? So her body can appear here. And her illness didn't mean to hold her back at all. So when she performed the moves from the previous world and practiced her internal skills, it was so smooth without any obstacles. Because what is in this world is her spirit, her consciousness, not herself at all. Perhaps this could also explain that the vicious woman in the previous worlds would still sneer in her ears from time to time, but after entering this game, even that woman's ridicule never appeared. She couldn't even contact the woman. Since the sea level can suddenly rise and submerge everything, then everyone should be mentally prepared. According to this situation, I am afraid that other more absurd things will happen in the future. Then, the system began to announce that there were only 303 existing players left, barely 30%. Everyone was sighing again. Only 1/6 of the game time has passed. Undoubtedly, the difficulty will increase in the future. Just like last time, there is a friendly reminder below the broadcast. The second system task will be released in 72 hours, which will test the upgrade and become more difficult. In order to prevent discomfort, all players are asked to take the time to make physical and psychological preparations. I wish you a happy game. Causing discomfort? Also physical and psychological? Well, this sentence was very successful, and it has made all of them think wildly, and now they are starting to feel uncomfortable. However, something worse happened. The system inserted another announcement. Good news, a player has successfully unlocked all items in the mall and obtained the title of Mall Rich. The mall looks forward to your visit and wishes you a happy game. Tao Ran. Who else doesn't know that the most expensive item redeemable in the mall is a generator? Doesn't this clearly tell everyone that someone has already obtained 9,999 points? Is everyone checking the standings now? The ranking list is even worse. The first place is also marked with the honor of Mall Rich, for fear that others don't know that the first place is worth 9,999 points. Outsiders may not know that the first place is her, number 44, but everyone in their team naturally knows it. Although everyone said nothing, they still cast envious looks one after another. Tao Ran grinds his teeth. It's too damaging. If this continues, everyone in his team will feel unbalanced, right? Whether I score 9,999 or 99, I will still do my best to take everyone out of the game as before, she solemnly promised everyone. She also clearly told number 100 that she would not consider changing the generator until her score rose to 15,000 points. On this day, the men worked together to build a tree house, while the women fired a large number of tiles and built a simple stove with the tiles. It was no longer difficult to boil water, and life was obviously much more comfortable. However, this game world is too disturbing, so no one dares to eat or drink anything from this world unless they have enough food and water. Another day passed like this. Before going to bed, Tao Ran found that his points were still 9,999. He remained motionless, as if waiting for her to replace him. Haha, she doesn't. When I got up the next day, the score was still 9,999. It's a bit irritating. Depressed, she practiced martial arts for 2 full hours. Her sword skills and internal skills are getting better and better, and her physical strength and light skills are both good. With inner strength, even the effect of archery can be doubled with half the effort. After teaching a group of strong men a set of basic sword skills, 100 came to see her. It's not that she needs to redeem points, but she needs help. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 292. Tao Ran gave number 100 the task of designing the trap. Now number 100 basically has an idea, but a lot of vines are needed. Some of the vines on the top of the mountain have been almost used by them, so if you want vines again, you have to go to the forest below the stone forest or other mountains. Well, I'll find a way. Just in time. Tao Ran also wanted to leave the mountain to see the situation. 300 people came into this mountainous area at once, and as of yesterday, most of them had gathered near the green space. Nearly 20 hours have passed, and I wonder how many people will choose this hilltop where they are? Tao Ran took 8 helpers down to the top of the mountain. To get vines, we naturally have to go to the dense forest slope yesterday. Thinking of the spider yesterday, several people were a little frightened, but they couldn't help but think about it. Is it a monster that can be used to increase points in online games? Or NPC? After all, it's amazing to be able to understand human speech. To prevent encountering spiders again, Taoran deliberately caught some hares and pheasants in advance and took them with him. However, as soon as the group arrived near the stone forest, they stopped. Because of the direction of the wind, they seemed to hear movement coming from below. Several people quickly climbed up the stone pillar and looked down with binoculars. Hee. A team of about a dozen people was going up the mountain and now entering the dense forest. Taoran sneered. She saw number 22 and number 98 again. Not only do these two people have great fortunes, but what kind of fate do they have with me? Why can't I be visited by that pair of people wherever I go? What is even more unappetizing is that number 22 is suspected to be the leader of this team. What did he say while standing at the front, and then raised his knife, and a group of people behind him followed? Tisk. Just him? It seems that besides number 98, there are many blind and brainless people. I don't know if they come to seek refuge with us? To deal with us? Or if they just want to settle on this mountain, number 30 said. Taoran, we will know when they come out of the dense forest slope. If he surrendered, she didn't want to accept it. Their team is in great shape right now and all instability needs to be avoided. If they are looking for trouble, they won't be polite. If it's the third type, everything has a first come, first served basis. They have already occupied the area on the top of the mountain and will never let it go. Therefore, if this group of people wants to settle in this mountain, they can only do so outside the area they have already occupied. For example, dense forest slope or stone forest, as long as these people don't mind. Now as soon as the other party enters the dense forest, Taoran and the others can no longer see him even with telescopes. Ignore them, let's find Tang first. Taoran led a few people into the dense forest. However, they did not go deep and only searched close to the stone forest to avoid the presence of wild beasts. It's not difficult to find vines. There are vines growing everywhere in the forest. So in less than an hour, it was fully loaded with several people, stuffed in bags, hung on shoulders, dragged on the ground. Just as they were finishing, a series of calls for help came from below. Several people couldn't help it and walked into the forest together. It was the team of visitors who encountered the giant spider, and then the two sides started fighting. Two people had fallen on the ground, motionless. It was unclear whether they were fainted from poison or dead. Number 98 screamed repeatedly and pulled number 22 back several steps. Seeing number 22 retreat, the others also flinched, and for a moment, they all retreated behind number 22. A few people even thought of quitting and wanted to leave. Can't leave. Number 22 snapped. We are all at the bottom of the rankings, so we have to join the number 44 team. Have you forgotten? Last night at the green space, everyone roughly compared the rankings. Now the top 10 points should all be in the number 44 team. What do you think? Think about it, even the kids on the 14th and the losers on the 100th have thousands of points now. Are you willing? If you leave now, are there any other good places for you to go? Number 98 quickly answered, yeah, don't you know what my boyfriend's character is like? The other two hills are occupied by people. Who are those people? They are all vicious bastards. Not only can we not if you join them, I'm afraid you'll be robbed of everything. And there are wolves behind number 22 muttered, number 134 and number 328 just died there. We have no way out. Several other people looked at each other and could only sigh, then what do we do? Let's go together. Number 22 took courage and signaled to several people, let's surround it and chop it together. Let's see if it can withstand so many of our knives. Several people lined up according to his instructions and raised their knives towards the giant spider. As soon as number 22 gave the order, everyone went out with their knives, but they didn't expect the spider to suddenly control the spider silk and fly into the air as high as a person. All the swords of several people were in vain. Number 22 did not expect that the spider was spiritual and had already regarded him as a target, so now it pounced directly on him from mid-air. Number 22 was horrified. At that critical moment, he made his choice. A wounded teammate behind him who was with Station 98 was pushed out directly by him. The wounded man screamed and was thrown to the ground by the spider. The spider's mouthparts penetrated the wounded man's neck. In the blink of an eye, the wounded man lost consciousness and did not know whether to live or die. When the giant spider turned around and tried to lock its target again, number 22 had already pulled number 98 and ran 50 meters away, leaving his other unresponsive teammates behind. Then, the panting number 22 ran into Taoran and others. "Get out," Taoran said coldly. She was already sick. She recognized No 22's face as soon as she arrived in this world. He just took advantage of his teammates, and his treacherous behavior was even more rubbish. Her team doesn't need such a person. Even more avoidable. However, the pair on the opposite side had obviously practiced this for a long time. Number 22 knew that he had offended number 44 before, so only number 98 slowly stepped forward. "Sister, please, save us. We really can't survive. As long as you take us in, we can do anything." Number 98 tried his best to look pitiful and squeezed out a few tears, but unfortunately there was no sincerity in his eyes. Whether it was acting or not, in Taoran's eyes, there was nothing to hide. "Sister, for the sake of us all being girls." "Get out," Taoran interrupted again and pointed the knife out. "Sister, do you want to die without saving me? There are many ferocious beasts in the forest, including giant bears, wild wolves and big spiders. If you drive us away, you will kill us. Sister, you are a girl, and your hands are stained human life. You don't understand people, do you?" Taoran didn't even bother to explain. A knife flew out and directly cut off a strand of No 98's hair. "Either get out of here, or be crippled by me and thrown down the mountain. It's your choice." Number 98 is really aggrieved now. "I thought you were a good person before, but I didn't expect you to be so cruel. You obviously took my bag before and you took advantage of me. What's wrong with helping me now? We have no grievances. You must want to see me die. It's not that I'm cruel, it's that my team doesn't need idiots like you. Is your love brain holding you back? Didn't this woman see what the man she loved just did? If your outlook on life follows your organs, there will be no regrets in dying. I'm sorry, please leave." The bows and arrows were lined up and aimed at number 22. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 293. Number 22 originally wanted to defend himself a few words, but as soon as he opened his mouth, whoosh! An arrow directly missed his ear. His legs went weak and he sat down on the ground, swallowing all his words. So vicious, who else but number 44? He touched the blood hanging from his ears, feeling lingering fear in his heart. If the arrow deflected a little further, would he? Taoran. If you keep talking nonsense, the next arrow will hit your ear. It's useless to keep your ears anyway. Number 98 was angrily about to come forward to argue, but Taoran also shot out with an arrow and wiped her boots directly. She was so frightened that she fell to the ground. One last time, get out. If it were anyone else, Taoran would not be so overbearing and could allow them to stay in the dense forest or stone forest. But number 22 is not a thing. There is still a grudge between them, so Taoran must drive them away. The group of people glared at number 22. In the end, they had no choice but to turn back. At this point, number 22 will naturally not forget to say harsh words. Number 44, you are so cruel. You stole our supplies first and killed my brother last. Remember this, today I will take revenge on you and me, don't give up. Tao Ran was speechless. Who killed his brother? Ill. If she was cruel, could he still leave alive? She didn't even ask him to hand over the supplies. Too lazy to talk nonsense, she just pulled out another arrow. Number 22 tilted his head, and the arrow grazed his face, leaving a blood stain on his handsome face. He and number 98 screamed in fright. A group of people fled at almost a sprint speed of 100 meters, but his voice still echoed back. 9,999 is amazing, isn't it? You can't live without this world. Just wait and see if you don't believe me. Well, I'll wait and see. Rubbish. Tao Ran didn't even bother to waste his words scolding him. After Tao Ran and the others had tidied up the vines, they quietly entered the forest again. In the area where the fight just took place, the giant spider and number 22 and others were no longer visible. They should have all left. Tao Ran looked at the man on the back who was pushed out by number 22, and found that he and the other two were no longer breathing. All three died of poisoning. That spider is really poisonous. On the day we went up the mountain, a girl majoring in biology in the team said that the venom of spiders can directly shut down the central nervous system of a living body, causing paralysis or death. Tao Ran thought of that. She saw several corpses with spiders pulling out their mouthparts and scattering them on the rocks, and drops of venom on the leaves. She couldn't help but dig out the medicine box, trying to take away the poison. Wearing gloves, I had just finished filling the glass bottles in the medicine box when the spider suddenly fell from the sky. Several people were shocked and quickly brought over the game they had brought with them. The spider finally slowly put away its legs. Several people gave an ugly smile. Tao Ran, from now on, we can coexist peacefully. The spider spared them again. Well, having this spider here saved them a lot of trouble. After I leave on the 22nd, I will definitely publicize the brutality here. With the bad reputation, not many people will come to join in the fun. When he returned to the stone forest, Tao Ran took a closer look at the other two mountains. Sure enough, there are a lot of people on mountain number 1. From the top to the mountainside, people can be seen in 2s and 3s. People who are afraid of shrinking back must be thinking of ways to go to the top of the mountain, so mountain number 1, the flattest one, is obviously the best choice. There are green spaces everywhere, and people keep choosing mountain number 1. On the contrary, everyone avoided mountain number 2, which had the richest vegetation and water resources. They guessed that maybe, as number 22 said not long ago, those villains should have occupied mountain number 2. The group of number 22 and number 98 were silent when they went back. After we get down the mountain, let's go our separate ways, someone from their team said. Previously, they were deceived by No 22's rhetoric and joined his team. But obviously, this team is worthless. One person speaks and many respond. The remaining 6 people all spoke up to break away from them. No 22's eyes darkened. He hates it so much. He wanted to eat number 44 alive. That woman has been against him from the beginning. He was also the taskmaster, so why was that woman so cruel to only him? Is it easy for you? Number 22 knew that he was not capable enough, so on the first day of the mission, he coaxed number 98, the rich woman with points, into willingly giving him a lot of points. But later, number 44 not only knocked him out, robbed number 98, but also provoked a relationship between him and number 98. God knows how much effort he put in, how many plays he performed, and how much intimacy he had with number 98 before he could change her mind and dispel her doubts. After that, he finally formed a team, but encountered a tsunami. Finally, 5 people survived at the cost of 3 brothers. They asked the team led by number 44 for help from afar, but number 44 refused to save them and left directly. They were so desperate at the time. He secretly exchanged all his points for anesthetics, plotted against the other 3 brothers, and forced them to use their last points to exchange for life jackets and other items. He and number 98 escaped by relying on a boat made of a large number of life jackets, while the 3 brothers were pushed into the water by him. At that time, the news of the circle shrinking was just released. He and number 98 met a rich man with points while rowing to the mountains. They saved the man in exchange for a sum of supplies. When he docked, he took advantage of the man's unpreparedness and killed him with a knife. After going up the mountain, he used his deliberate magnanimity and charm to attract a group of people around him in the green space. He planned to bring people to join number 44. He is not only greedy for the group of people who followed number 44, but also wants revenge. He felt that since number 44 could take care of the child number 14 and the fool number 100, he would definitely sympathize with the woman number 98. Even if he had to compromise, he had to join that team first. His goal is to eventually grab all the supplies of Team 44 and become the king of this team. For this, they made a lot of preparations, including letting number 98 act. However, number 44 didn't even give them a chance, and even let his team disperse. What was even more hateful was the contempt in her eyes, which reminded him of the kind of contempt he suffered in his world. Because he was born into a poor family, he had been ostracized since he was a child. Even though he finally entered a good company, he was never looked down upon by his female colleagues. Diosy is what everyone calls him. Just because he is poor? When he came to this world, he established a wealthy second-generation persona, and sure enough, women immediately threw themselves into his arms. How ironic. He wants to change, he wants to complete this task and go back to become the real president. On the 44th, he must make her kneel down. On the way down the mountain, number 22 had a private conversation with the highest-ranked brother in their team. He repeated his old trick and knocked down the brother, forcing him to exchange all the points for the equipment he needed. After being fully prepared, he took number 98 to mountain number 2. He found out in Greenland last night that there was number 73 and number 299 on mountain number 2. They both had a grudge against number 44. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 294. 2 nights and 1 day passed by in a flash, and everyone was waiting for the release of the second mission. Taoran's points are still 9,999. From being speechless at the beginning, she has become indifferent now. The process of waiting is a bit painful, and no one knows what will happen in the new mission. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the system once again released a public message on time: the second round of tasks will start in 2 hours. Players are asked to be prepared to face and meet the challenge. Gone. That's it? Didn't it say that in order to prevent discomfort, the second round of tasks requires both physical and psychological construction? Since it was so serious, they didn't even explain what the task was, how to do it, and what the consequences would be. Just a note below, this game has a lot of freedom, and players can explore the strategy goals and tasks on their own. In addition, rewards will be dropped randomly. Good luck. Too speechless, everyone was at a loss. I waited another 2 hours, but nothing happened. Many people thought it was a task error and kept swiping their panels over and over again. Time gradually passed and it was still peaceful. Everyone could only do their own work. The guards who should be patrolling should help those who make wooden arrows, and those who should help chop down trees. In short, there are a lot of things to do. It wasn't until half an hour later that the game experience came. Number 44. Number 44, "Come on," someone suddenly called. I don't know what happened, the voice was trembling. Tao Ran, who was helping number 100 look for traps, got up and followed the sound. No one spoke, so he quickly climbed up the tree. Then he saw number 30, the captain of the patrol team, waving to her from a distance about 200 meters away. Tao Ran and others immediately realized that it was related to the mission, quickly grabbed their weapons and headed towards the stone forest. Since there are many ferocious beasts on the dense forest slope, it forms a natural barrier. Therefore, in the past few days, the patrol team has expanded the patrol area to include the stone forest. After running for dozens of steps, she saw clearly that number 30 had an ashen face, stammering and gesticulating. "What's happening?" As for Tao Ran raised the telescope and took a look, feeling panicked. "I saw almost a dozen people approaching in the dense forest below the stone forest. It's incredible. Those wolves, giant bears, and spiders couldn't stop the intruders." "No. You saw it wrong," the patrolling guard was about to cry without tears. It turned out that 2/4 of an hour ago, a group of people patrolled near the stone forest and suddenly smelled a sour smell. The smell was so strange that a few people hadn't decided whether to go and find out, but they found many small animals such as hares and squirrels rushing out of the dense forest slope. This is strange. There is a lack of living elements near the stone forest, so small animals rarely come here, and these animals are running rampant. Something must have happened in the dense forest. Upon closer inspection, the sour smell that I just smelled was coming from the forest. The patrol team decided to walk a little halfway into the forest to take a look. However, as we got closer to the jungle, the smell became stronger. Not only is it sour, it also has a bit of a smell. Slightly uneasy, they decided to go no further than 200 meters. But before they had walked for a few minutes, they heard rustling, rushing, and an indescribable movement. Stepping lightly, they slowly approached following the sound, and after digging through the grass, they saw a man squatting under a tree not far away. It was that person who made the noise. The man was wearing a jacket that their missionaries had exchanged from the mall. But he was able to sneak up the mountain and through the forest alone. The patrol team immediately cheered up, and number 30 even stepped forward with a knife in hand. "Don't move," he hung the long knife on the visitor's neck. The person squatting on the ground paused and turned his head. A bloody piece of raw meat fell from this man's mouth to the ground. Ah! A scream. In just 1 second, number 30 fell to the ground, and even the long knife in his hand fell to the ground. It wasn't that someone attacked him, but that he was shocked. The face he saw was not only bloody, but also had bulging eyes, and maggots were crawling on the face and flesh. What's terrifying is not only this man's appearance, but also his behavior. At this moment, this monster is holding a white rabbit in his hand. He is gnawing at the white rabbit with his teeth. Snow-colored fur and bright red internal organs were all in his mouth. No 30's stomach was churning, especially because of the stench coming from this person. This smell is exactly the same as the sour smell in the woods. Now he understood that this was not a sour smell, to be precise, it was a sour smell. In fact, not only number 30, but also several people in the patrol team were frightened. But the next second is even more terrifying. When the man turned around and saw them, he bared his teeth and rushed towards number 30, opening his bloody mouth at the same time. Drops of blood were still falling from his mouth. No 30's scalp was numb and he subconsciously kicked his legs out. With this kick, he almost used all his strength, but the man didn't seem to be aware of the kick, and instead grabbed his leg. "Let go. Let me go," number 30 shouted urgently. The man in front of me was so strong. This strength was almost twice as strong as his own. Such a strong man as number 30 was unable to break away for a moment. At this time, number 30 saw the code inside the man's open jacket, number 155. 155, you are crazy. Let go. But number 155 didn't seem to hear it at all. He just hugged No 30's leg and dragged it. Number 30 was dragged forward half a meter by him. Help me, number 30 called for help. Thanks to the large number of them, several others quickly swung their knives. The knife cut deeply into No 155's arm, but number 155 only glanced at his attacker, then let go of number 30, changed the target, and jumped out again. Number 30, who was still in shock, suddenly thought of something. No, 2 days ago, he and number 44 went down the mountain into the dense forest slope to find Teng according to No 100's wishes. At that time, their group met dozens of people from number 22. In order to avoid being hunted by spiders, number 22 sacrificed 3 members of their team. Later, number 30 and number 44 looked at the 3 corpses together, including number 711, number 523, and at that time, there was a corpse named number 155. He is sure. Number 155 was already dead at that time, either fainted or dead. He should have been dead for 2 days. But now, taking a closer look, number 30 is even more certain that the monster in front of him is number 155. This realization and fact had a greater impact than the previous shocks. Number 30, covered in cold sweat, came back from the dead. This is a ghost. He's not a human. He's not a human. Everyone's values collapsed instantly. When they saw the crazy number 155 in front of them, grabbing their brother's shoulder and about to bite him, they naturally swung the knife and started to chop. This time, they won't be as spared as they were just now. Cut! 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 Both of the monster's hands were chopped off and fell to the ground, but he still bared his teeth and rushed forward. They slashed away again. The monster's neck was slashed and its head was cut off in half, but the monster still didn't stop, still tilting its head and charging forward step by step. Go! Go! Everyone in the patrol team rushed up the mountain with all their strength. Fortunately, the monster's strength was excellent, but its speed was not enough. After the patrol hid behind the stone forest, the monster could not find its target and its movements slowed down. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 295. Due to the impact of number 155, the entire patrol team was stunned. When they went to report the news on the 30th, several other people quickly climbed up the stone pillar. After some careful investigation, they found that there was more than one monster like number 155 in the forest. They seem to be interested in all living creatures and are very sensitive to sounds, so when the animals in the forest are running up the mountain, the monsters are also being attracted towards the mountain little by little. During the frightening inventory, several people discovered that soon, at least a dozen monsters would arrive in the stone forest. And at the foot of the mountain, those people who are aimlessly bumping around are obviously monsters. The number is increasing. Tao Ran and the others who had just arrived were also dumbfounded. They saw with their own eyes that number 155, whose hands had been chopped off, took aim at a rabbit again. The monster actually hit the ground with its head, blocking the rabbit's path, and then bit the rabbit's neck with its teeth. That movement was done in one go, ferocious and swift, in the blink of an eye. It was completely impossible for a human to be able to do it. And the crazy and bloodthirsty behavior of using one's own head as a hand in order to catch rabbits is not something humans would do. This second mission is absurd, terrifying and speechless. No wonder this task would cause discomfort. Naturally, several people behind him were vomiting. Even Tao Ran felt nauseous. He did not dare to look directly at those bloody people, and subconsciously breathed softly to prevent the smell from entering his nose. Between No wonder this task requires both physical and psychological preparation. The monster's power is no longer something ordinary people like them can contend with. Taoran saw with his own eyes a monster directly picked up a huge boulder in order to catch a living creature. If a group of people like me had a head-on confrontation with a monster, there would be no chance of winning. So, can we not build any more? This is especially true psychologically. At this moment, behind Taoran, someone was whispering, Amitabha, Bodhisattva bless you. Someone was drawing the cross and praying for God bless. Someone else was silently reciting the core values of prosperity, democracy, civilization, and harmony, and someone even sang Song of Makabaka. Doesn't our collapsed worldview urgently need saving? Are these things considered monsters? Evil ghost? Zombies? Then what? But it was clear that not long ago, they were still the same missionaries as themselves. Taoran thought of the previous system's response, saying that if the task could not be completed, the player would stay in the game forever and would never be able to return to the real world. If you look closely, you can see that there are some monsters whose clothes are in tatters. They may have been in the game for a long time. It turns out that the person who stayed in the game was in this form where he didn't look like a human or a ghost. Who can accept this? The fear in everyone's hearts is even worse. And asking them to kill each other with these missionaries who were still alive and kicking not long ago, isn't this a test? So, psychological construction actually also includes a moral aspect, right? Even Taoran found it a bit difficult to pick up a knife and kill someone. Seeing that the monsters were getting closer, Taoran caught a pheasant, tied its feet with a straw rope and tied it to an arrow. He climbed to a high place in the stone forest and shot an arrow into the forest. The pheasant flapped its wings and flew away, and the group of monsters were immediately attracted and rushed forward. Soon, chicken feathers were flying in that area. They are not human. They almost killed us just now. The people on number 30 took a deep breath. If we die here, we will turn into this kind of monster. Yes, so we can't be lenient. Taoran also nodded. She stood at the highest point of the area and looked around through the telescope. At the bottom of the valley, she saw a player being surrounded by a group of walking zombies and being eaten directly. We have to stop these things in order to survive. Taoran sent people to call everyone on the mountain, and at the same time, he also brought all the arrows he had saved earlier. Use bows and arrows, long-range attacks are safer, and they don't have to face critical hits and the psychological hurdle of getting through them. No matter what, we can't let them get out of the dense forest slope. 10 people lined up in a row, drawing their bows and shooting arrows together. I don't know whether they were attracted by their voices or the anger they exuded. Within a few minutes, the group of monsters came towards the stone forest again. With the command, arrows flew out. Someone shot the monster in the neck, but the opponent only got stuck for a moment, and then moved forward again. Someone shot the monster between its eyebrows, but the opponent only staggered a few times and had no further impact. Someone else shot the monster in the leg. The monster fell to the ground and couldn't stand up, but he still twisted on the ground and walked forward with his shoulders crossed. These monsters can no longer speak and can only make some ah sounds. Their state is similar to the zombies in the TV series Taoran watched in his early years. Almost collapsed on the 30th. Why can't we kill them? Why can't we find their dead spot? This is so desperate. No matter whether they hacked at number 166 like they did before, or they are trying so hard now, they just can't make these things stop completely. The monster number 155 is getting closer and closer. Number 30 got excited and shot several arrows at number 155 at random. His luck is good. After he shot the monster in the chest with an arrow, the monster suddenly staggered, fell heavily, and refused to move. The dead center is in the chest. After finally killing the monster that almost killed him, Number 30 became excited and saw the only monster number 155 under the stone forest, so he rushed over. "The dead center is in the chest," he shouted. Number 155 was motionless. Even if number 30 stepped on it, there was no reaction. When Taoran heard this, he quickly joined the others in shooting arrows at the monster's chest. 30 Just when he was about to join the archery team again, he was hit by a heavy weight. He was suddenly shocked. The monster that was clearly dead just now opened its eyes and mouth again, and knocked him to the ground with its head. The arrow in the chest only made him stunned for 10 seconds. Help! Seeing that number 155 was about to pounce again, number 30 called for help again. Taoran rushed over quickly. At this time, even if she felt uncomfortable in her heart, she had to focus on saving her companions. She slashed hard with her big knife, and after rescuing number 30, she looked around for the dead spot on the monster. She even imitated the way in zombie movies, hitting the sword horizontally and hitting the monster in the head. But it didn't work out. Even though his brain was bursting, the monster remained strong and stepped forward reluctantly. Isn't this enough? Her zombie movies were in vain. Taoran was also depressed. She simply stabbed it out, held her breath and half closed her eyes, trying to find the dead spot on number 155. "I'm sorry. For the sake of the living." At about the 10th blow, the monster suddenly froze in place, his eyes calmed down, and then he fell straight down. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes passed, and he didn't wake up again. Taoran understood after observing his last stab. Her knife was a casual blow after testing various vital points on her body. But this knife happened to be inserted into the nameplate of number 155. The number plate in the number 155 jacket was already torn apart. After losing its number plate, the monster suddenly turned back into a corpse with no attack power. This month, there are too many worries. I slept until a little after midnight last night when a water pipe burst in the kitchen at home. The air conditioner is on in the room and the door is closed, so I don't even know. It turned out that the neighbor downstairs came to the door when it rained, only to find out that the house was soaked in water. I have been removing water from midnight to this morning. I have to repair the water pipes tonight when I go back and clean up tomorrow. So today and tomorrow's updates will be as they happen. Be careful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 296. Taoran carefully observed the number plate number 155. Later, it was discovered that there was indeed an eye on the top, which was poked out by an arrow. It should be the arrow shot just on the 30th. But his arrow failed to completely destroy the number plate, so monster number 155 only fainted but did not die. Number plate? It's so important. But it's understandable. Probably, this game uses number cards to control these monsters. As long as there are no number plates, these corpses will no longer be controlled. In order to prove his judgment, Taoran struck again and did the same thing. She spotted another monster coming forward and used a set of dazzling knife skills. First, he tore up the monster's coat, and then poked at the monster's number plate. When the number plate cracked, the monster fell to the ground. Tried again, same effect. So her judgment is correct. The dead center is the number plate. You guys try it too. With this understanding, everyone suddenly had a direction. Regardless of whether they were knives or arrows, they all went towards the number plates on the chests of those monsters. At the same time, everyone's chests were shocked. There is a system message. When I pressed the button, it showed, a player won the glory kill honor and received 2000 points as a system reward. Other players are asked to keep up their efforts. The first 30 people who complete the kill mission will all receive generous rewards. I wish you a happy game. 1 kill? Taoran was stunned. Was it him again? Take a look at the points. Okay. Now her total points have reached 11,999. Already exceeded. Is this mission completed just like that? Looking at the rankings again, she is naturally number 1. Ken. There was another shock. System games are here again. Congratulations to player 4 * for completing the points task and receiving the honor of Golden Player. What's even more speechless is that, as if no one can see it, in the first position, the 3 honors of rainbow-colored Mall Monopoly, fluorescent red Glory Kill and Golden Player are flashing in turn. As long as you are not blind, you can almost be psychologically unbalanced by her titles. Too high profile. It's easy to get into trouble. Taoran cursed inwardly, but the system seemed to be joking with her and directly added another point to her, bringing her score to 12,000. This late point has been waiting for 3 full days, but it's only now that it's added to her. Hee. Isn't it just bad taste? Pooh. She had no intention of scolding the game, nor did she slack off because her game task was halfway through. She only glanced at it and closed the panel. She shouted to her companions. There are 30 places to grab points. Before the other groups know the dead point, let's try to win it as quickly as possible. Get as much as we can. I'll help you get it. As Taoran spoke, he dragged out number 100, who was covering his mouth and retching. What are you doing? What are you doing? Number 100 was shocked. When he shouted, several monsters were startled and turned their heads. Shut up, Taoran shouted and glared. Number 100 was in tears and his legs were weak. Taoran couldn't drag him, so he could only push him behind a big stone. Then, Taoran rushed out and came to a monster. Before the opponent could pounce with his claws and fangs, Taoran rolled on the spot, attracting the monster to the big rock. Listen to my command and stab his number plate with a knife. Number 100, who was behind the big rock, was trembling with fear and squatted down to hold his head. He understands that number 44 is trying to score points for him, but does it have to be this way? Taoran rolled over the rocks and jumped behind number 100. Prepare. I can't. The monster followed and threw stones, but number 100 became anxious and dropped the dagger directly to the ground. Taoran had no choice but to pick up the dagger. When the monster leaned out, he grabbed No 100's hand and inserted the dagger deeply into the number plate on the monster's chest. Taoran, look at the points. How many are they? She had to quickly collect 9,999 for this guy. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 297. Taoran somehow got 2,000 points. He guessed that he would be criticized by number 100 again, so he decided to help him out. When she picked up the dagger and dragged it out of No 100's hand, she actually had the dagger forced into No 100's hand. So strictly speaking, the person directly responsible for the assassination was number 100. The number plate shattered and the monster fell down. However, number 100 was urged by Taoranyi to stupidly open the panel. The reward is 500 points added. So few, Taoran was disappointed again. She got 2,000 points for her first kill. She thought she could get at least 1,000 points for her second kill, but obviously she was overthinking it. What's your total score? Only, just over 5,000. Taoran was speechless. I'm afraid I'll still have to wait until number 100 reaches 9,999. She pushed number 100 away and threw herself into the fight. This rare opportunity to score points should naturally be reserved for our own people. In the end, it was still 500 points, which amounted to 1/20th of the total task. She ignored the men who had been practicing martial arts with her recently and had been able to find a way to kill monsters together. Instead, she called out to those who had just arrived and were at the bottom of the team in terms of points and were relatively weak. Point. After going in and out of the monster group several times, Taoran probably figured out the monsters' patterns. Although they are powerful, ferocious, and fast, they don't know how to use their brains. And although her strength is not outstanding, she is better because she has moves. As soon as she spread her sword skills and launched real and fake moves, the monster was almost like a headless fly being slithered around by her. She either controlled the monster and asked her companion to quickly stab it with a dagger, or she directly led her companion to attack together, or she followed the example of number 30 just now and directly stabbed the number plate on the monster's chest a few times without doing anything. It directly breaks the number plate, but causes the monster to freeze for a few seconds to create opportunities for companions. Monsters fell one after another, and several people got bonus points. Everyone who got points didn't stop immediately. Instead, they followed Taoran's example and helped the weaker ones in the team to grab points. For a time, everyone's enthusiasm was aroused. And the previous discomfort gradually faded away. Because they know that they are not killing people. In a certain sense, they are not only scoring points, but also working hard for the safety of the team. In fact, they are saving missionaries who once had the same fate as themselves. Soon, with the concerted efforts of everyone, a group of monsters near the dense forest slope were eliminated. Compared with them, the situation on the other two mountains is obviously not optimistic. Especially Hill 1. Although there were the largest number of missionaries there, due to the gentle terrain, the monsters advanced very quickly, and in terms of number, they were not much less than the missionaries. The monsters were pressing on them, and the missionaries could not resist them at all. They screamed in agony, and the missionaries were almost chased around by the monsters. Everyone was extremely lucky. Their mountain number 3 was the most steep and difficult to climb, so even though there were many monsters at the foot of the mountain, their advance was very slow. With terrain and dense forest slopes as barriers, it is difficult for monsters to come in large waves, so their defensive pressure is not heavy. In addition, the mountain behind them is a cliff, so there is no need to worry about the rear. All they have to do is defend the dense forest line. Everyone looked at the tragic number 1 mountain, compared with their current sense of security, and for a moment, they felt grateful to Taoran again. They chose to follow number 44 early in the morning, which was really wise. Otherwise, it would not be possible to have a smooth journey, nor would it be possible to score points in a big way like now and at the same time be protected to the greatest extent. Everyone started to look at their points. Announcements of good news came one after another. The rewards for the first 30 kills have been distributed. There are a total of 30 places, and a total of 23 people in their team of 34 have received rewards. Except for Taoran, everyone else's bonus points were 500. Taoran also discovered that her points had reached 12,120. The scores started to add up steadily as before. Looking at the stinking corpses on the ground, everyone began to dig holes silently. Bury these people, that's what everyone thinks. Not only does it smell bad, it may also breed bacteria and cause poisoning due to corrosion, but also because of the human principle in everyone's heart. Thinking about it from their perspective, if they died in this mission, they would definitely not want to become a walking corpse, not want to be found dead in the wilderness, and not want to have their bodies unprotected and not have a resting place. This is the only thing they can do for the deceased. Everyone just does what they say. With concerted efforts, all the monsters in this wave were soon buried in a pit. It was sunset, and the golden sunlight shone down, giving everyone a golden glow. It is very comfortable, everyone feels that even the pores are filled with unprecedented warmth. Everyone's chest was shocked again. The system's task prompt is here again. From now on, other points earning channels will be suspended. The game will enter the stage where players can earn points independently. Players are asked to face the crisis head-on. 20 points will be awarded for each kill completed. Happy gaming! So, now the only way to get points is by killing? Taoran stretched out his hand and pinched it. Right? When she was helping others just now, she personally dealt with 6 monsters. Each one scored 20 points, but wasn't it 120 points? Everyone took a deep breath. The system does not mention the end time of the mission, so it is very likely that this kill mission will continue until the end of the game. Most of the people in their team have points between 2000 and 3000, which means that if they want to complete the points task, each person must complete 300 to 400 kills. Everyone's scalp is numb. How many monsters are there? As a team, they must complete at least tens of thousands of kills. Undoubtedly, the days to come will become even more bloody. Look, someone held a telescope and pointed downward. At the foot of the mountain and on the shore, many monsters appeared from nowhere and were wandering around aimlessly. Judging from the number of people, there were at least several hundred. So many, even if the 3 mountains are divided equally, hundreds of monsters will arrive in this wave alone. And who can guarantee whether more monsters will appear next? As we watched, the monsters began to move towards the green space. Conservative estimates suggest that they will reach the dense forest slope again tomorrow morning at the latest. An emergency meeting was convened immediately while there was still time. No need to hide how many points each has, just report them. Taoran was very direct. The scores came in one by one and the teams began to reorganize. From now on, the days of ease will be over. 34 people were organized into 4 teams with strong and weak teams. All day long, a team must be alert and stay on the front line of the transition between the dense forest and the stone forest. There are 4 teams, 1 patrolling, 1 ready to join the battle, 1 preparing supplies and weapons, and 1 resting to conserve energy. Keep rotating every 4 hours. Arrangements had just been made here, and everyone felt another shock in their chests. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 298. A new system message has arrived. It shows that there are only 265 existing game players. There are dozens more people missing. Everyone was silent for a few seconds. Look, someone suddenly shouted, breaking the dull atmosphere. I saw a thick black smoke coming out of the mountains. Looking at the direction, it seems to be close to the green area of the valley. The thick smoke blocked the view, and it was impossible to see clearly for a while. Black smoke billowed, and within a short while, it filled the air. The heat wave is coming, and the fires in the mountains have started. Oops, Taoran figured it out. If there was no thunder, where would the wildfire come from? This fire must be man-made. It is not autumn or winter now, the trees are dense and the water is abundant. The fire is so fierce that it is definitely beyond the ability of 1 or 2 people. If you want to start a fire, you must exchange a large amount of flammable oil in the mall to make the fire out of control. Mountain number 1 was in chaos, and it was impossible for everyone on the mountain to unite with the outside world. So the only ones who can do this are the group of people on mountain number 2. And they are the only ones who can do such a thing. The most ferocious people gathered on mountain number 2. This group of people should have formed a group long ago. They must have seen hundreds of monsters heading towards the green space just now, so they thought of this. There is a fire under the number 2 mountain. The monsters are afraid and must stay away. Then naturally, hundreds of monsters can only go to both sides. In this way, mountain number 2 can be preserved, but mountain number 1 and mountain number 3 will be unlucky. Taoran's suspicion was quickly confirmed. The man who went to observe the boulder on the mountainside reported back on the 11th that the fire was burning between the number 2 mountain and the green space. The monster is afraid of fire, and now it is running rampant to avoid the source of the fire. In this way, what they will face on mountain number 3 soon may be at least 200 monsters. This number is frightening. Although they had killed more than 30 monsters in one go just now, they still spent a lot of effort on the premise that the monsters were relatively scattered. Just imagine if monsters attack in large numbers, with their level of fighting, it would be difficult to escape and save their lives, let alone complete kills and points. When everyone was silent, Taoran strode towards number 100. Everyone fell silent and looked at her. Taoran stood in front of number 100. If you replace the generator, what can you build? How much time will it take? How sure are you? As long as there is electricity, we can modify electric weapons and tools, and the power grid is no problem. Since those monsters are afraid of fire, they must also be afraid of electricity. As long as there is electricity and we cooperate with traps, we will be more confident. There are tools in the mall, I can yes. If you build a power grid, it won't be that fast. But once the power grid is up, the effect will be great. When the time comes, no matter how many monsters come, they will be able to stop them, and we will have nothing to fear. Then I'll change. This time, it's really necessary. When she wants to leave this world, it's not just the points that she has to stay for 20 days. This mountain top is now her habitat and must be preserved. Otherwise, let alone protecting others, she would have nowhere to go. Moreover, this second round of missions has just begun, and the difficulty will only increase more and more, and the number of monsters will only increase. She asked herself, if she were to challenge those monsters alone, let alone 1 against 100, 1 against 10, or even 1 against 3, she would not be an opponent. Also, those villains on mountain number 2 have used up their points now, and I'm afraid they'll come looking for them soon. They have to guard against monsters here, and they also have to guard against people. Rather than ranking first in the standings, having the 3 major honors blinding everyone, and being jealous of Mushiu and Lin, it is better to keep a low profile and hide it from everyone. It's better to increase your defense. Just spend it all on this mountain. So, change it? Anyway, the way to get points has been announced, which is to kill. It happens to be what she is good at now. There is still plenty of time for the mission, and she is willing to work hard with her teammates. Under the grateful eyes of everyone, Taoran opened the mall and redeemed 9,999 points, the most valuable generator. Taoran looked at the 2,120 points he had left. For a moment, he felt like he had returned to a few days ago, and his heart was full of emotions. Just as she was about to close this annoying panel, she saw the page jump, showing that if she added 100 points, she could get another set of material packs along with the generator. It's all changed, it's just 100%. Confirm the exchange. She clicked yes again. When a generator and a small box appeared in front of them, everyone did not pay much attention to the machine. Instead, they followed number 100 and bowed to Taoran. 9,999 points, even for number 44, it seems not difficult to obtain these points, but after all, this is enough points to complete the points task. What kind of courage and sense of responsibility does it take to make up your mind to start from scratch? Many people ask themselves, if it were them, would they be able to do it? Most people think no. The charisma displayed by number 44 several times impressed them from the bottom of their hearts. Let them be willing to listen to her instructions without questioning the reason, and let her go wherever she goes. For a while, everyone asked number 100 what else he needed, and they were willing to do their part to exchange for the needed items in the mall. No, my points are quite high, use mine first. After thanking Taoran, Number 100 went about his business exchanging a bunch of materials. "I thank you all," he hugged everyone. At this time, once again, everyone's chest was shaken. Opening the panel, Taoran saw that although her honors of Golden Player and Mall Monopoly were gone, there was another rainbow-colored achievement on her number plate. System message: congratulations to the player for 4 and achieving the spend a lot of money achievement. The whole screen turns red. I can't keep a low profile again. Taoran took a deep breath, deeply suspecting that the system was targeting her. In this way, wouldn't it lead to people's imagination? Others don't know that she is a generator of exchange, and they don't know how many exciting and coveted materials she, a rich man, has exchanged. Is this an honor or a trap? Just when he was about to scold, he saw the second half of Biao Hong's sentence: congratulations to player no 4 for obtaining 1000 achievement reward points. Please keep up your efforts and unlock more honors. Seeing that his score had reached 3020, Taoran felt a little more comfortable. This system is not completely inhumane after all. But as soon as Taoran turned off the panel, he caught a glimpse of the bitter look on No 100's face. The generator is solar powered, number 100 almost cried. Need sunlight? Yes. And the sun has gone down, so it is impossible to store energy in the solar panels today. Therefore, the wave of monsters that may arrive before tomorrow morning will most likely not be dealt with by generators. Taoran covered his chest and stared at the sky with hatred. What a loss. Why didn't you mention before that the generator you were given was solar powered? Points. Feeling distressed. Seeing the monsters coming from the green space to the mountains on both sides in an endless stream, what else could they do? I am destined to stay up all night tonight. While there was still time, they could only quickly roll up their sleeves and prepare. Until number 100 gets the generator and develops electric weapons, all they can rely on is their hands. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 299. After asking everyone to take action and prepare the trap, before it was completely dark, Taoran carried a big knife, a ready-to-light torch on his waist, and took his backpack into the forest. Visit places, ask around and do something. Now they need time, so she plans to take over the delayed work. Probably the animals also had a sense of danger and hid early, so she didn't encounter any wild wolves, giant bears, etc. this time. She did come across the spider, motionless on a tree. When Taoran took a closer look at it, he realized that it had 2 broken legs, making it difficult to move. Needless to say, it must have been caused by a monster. Probably, all the small animals in the forest have fled, the spiders have found that their food is gone, and alien species have entered the forest, so they will inevitably become hostile. When attacking, the spider will definitely not be able to find the monster's dead center, and will inevitably suffer losses during the fight. Taoran deliberately killed the live pheasant he brought with him from the stone forest before placing it in front of the spider. Hurry up and hide. It won't take long before many monsters will appear. They are interested in all living things. Don't show up. I heard that spiders can grow their legs back after they shed their skin. Find a place to recuperate and grow your legs. Bar. The spider obviously understood. It hooked its feet over the 2 chickens, then raised its neck and sprayed a stream of venom like last time on the rocks. Taoran knew that it was repaying its kindness, so after thanking him, he quickly took a bottle and filled it with thick venom. Although I haven't thought of where this poison would be used yet, it is a good thing that can damage the central system of people. In this ferocious game world, she firmly believes that this poison can be used. The few times I've seen you, you've been nearby. Your home should be here, right? If I have a chance, I'll come back and bring you meat later. The spider raised its neck and sprayed another stream of poison. Taoran quickly accepted it. I'm going to check on the monsters, see you later. Time was precious, so Taoran left quickly. Recently, he was good at Qinggong, and he didn't have to take care of other people, so it only took Taoran 5 minutes to rush out of the forest. All the way down the mountain, there were already a few monsters at the foot of the mountain who were starting to go up the mountain. What are you waiting for? The monsters haven't gathered yet. With such a good opportunity, it is natural to take advantage of as many as possible. Taoran moved quickly and relied on sneak attacks. The longsword was fully used and the monsters at the foot of the mountain were quickly destroyed. Her score also reached 3,300. She didn't dare to move forward. Because the large group of monsters has left the green space and is coming. The fire was also very close, right at the foot of mountain number 2. Their fire was set cleverly, just a thin line. Like a wall, like a shield, it completely avoids monsters. Taoran climbed up the tree, took a telescope and took a look, then felt unhappy for a moment. Close enough to see clearly. Behind mountain fire wall number 2, a group of people gathered. Taoran saw a large group of scourges. Forget about number 299, she didn't expect that number 73 was actually alive and well, and that guy number 22 was standing among them, rubbing shoulders with those scum, looking like a human being. As for number 98, he is already standing beside number 299. Taoran felt disgusted for a while. Was she given away on the 22nd? A gift of surrender? Or did number 98 take the initiative to fall into the arms of number 299, who has a higher status? Taoran didn't have time to guess the mentality of those scum, so he quickly explored the mountainous area in front of the green space. Then, she found a tree and sat down, recharging her energy and waiting for the monsters to arrive. As night fell, the monsters finally arrived in the mountains. I'm out and about. Today's update is unstable. It will be back to normal tomorrow. I love you all. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 300. The previous guess was still not accurate enough. They underestimated the number of monsters. They thought they would face only 200 monsters at most, but Taoran saw with his own eyes that there were at least 400 monsters that came to the foot of mountain number 3 in large groups. Taoran started her efforts. Her goal is to buy more time for everyone on the mountain. So she used herself as bait. She chose the tallest and thickest tree at the foot of the mountain and climbed up, then wrapped her legs around the thick branches and started eating and drinking. This was a protracted battle, and she had to accumulate energy. After filling his stomach, the monsters also arrived nearby. She pointed the bottle with a quarter of the water left in her hand at the monster walking at the front and smashed it out. The monster was hit on the forehead and instantly started to hiss. The monsters behind were also alarmed and all excited. Taoran saw that they were really stupid, so after mentally building himself up, he started singing. The originally scattered monsters heard the singing and came closer one after another. In less than 30 seconds, almost all the monsters were attracted. The monsters can't climb trees. When they gather together, they circle the tree in circles, making sounds of aha, aha, aha. They opened their mouths wide, some stuck out their tongues, some bared their big teeth, and some drooled. The monsters in the inner circle kept slapping the tree, while the monsters in the outer circle all stretched out their hands to her on the tree. The scene was really terrifying, like facing a rampaging evil spirit deep in the underworld. The smell made Taoran retching repeatedly, and he almost vomited out all the food he had just eaten. Taoran rolled up leaves and plugged his nostrils. While continuing to sing loudly, he got points and exchanged bows and arrows from them all. The monsters under the tree all raised their necks, which just exposed their chests, which made it easier for Taoran to shoot them. This distance of almost 5 or 6 meters is a good condition for shooting. Aim an arrow, draw the bow and shoot. With a pop, the monster fell to the ground. Naturally, she couldn't miss this good opportunity. One after another, one arrow after another, he quickly shot down a group of them. 300 points can be exchanged for a bow and 10 arrows. The exchange rate for a single arrow is 10 points per arrow. Taoran's archery accuracy was pretty good, so even if her success rate was 1 out of 2, she still wouldn't lose. Soon, more than 10 people fell under the tree. The monsters are getting more and more crazy. The force they hit the tree was particularly strong, and the tree looked increasingly unstable. There was a base of dead bodies on the ground, and the monsters also climbed up. After pulling a few more arrows, Taoran stood up and decided to change places. She jumped directly from the branch to another tree, continued to draw the bow, and repeated her previous behavior. While she was shooting, she was luring the monster. Nearly an hour passed, and almost all the monsters were still following her around the foot of the mountain. She considers her strategy successful. As the sky grew dark, Taoran pulled out the torch from his waist and lit it. A single torch is not enough to scare the monsters, but it does give them a target to chase. This time, she directly led the monsters to a large area of thorns. Then, she threw the torch directly into the depths of the thorns, and then she disappeared into the tree. She was too tired. She had drawn the bow too many times. The muscles in her arms ached badly and she needed to take a rest. This was a place she had long valued. She didn't want to trap them completely, but only hoped to trap them for a while. The monsters continued to rush into the thorny field as high as a person like crazy. The patches of sharp thorns tore through their clothes and split their skin, but they felt nothing at all. They rushed one after another, falling down one by one, getting up, and falling again. Just forcefully enter the thorny land. The monsters slowed down. The monsters behind didn't know that it was difficult to move forward, so they pushed and pushed anxiously to chase the bright spot. As a result, some of the monsters in the front rows fell down directly, while others were pushed down from behind. The monsters trample on the former people. Wave after wave of ugly wails came from the thorny field. Many monsters were drowned there because they were injured and trampled, unable to get up. When all the monsters entered the thorn field, they belatedly discovered that the fire seemed to have disappeared, and their prey was no longer seen at all. For a moment, they hesitated. The monsters wandered around in the thorny fields looking for targets. More and more monsters fell down and died in this thorny field. At this time, Taoran had quietly walked around to the tree about 100 meters away. While observing the monster under the moonlight, he exchanged points for oil and watered the entire crown of the tree. When the monsters gradually came out of the thorny field, Taoran lit the crown of the tree just now and left. What a bright tree! The scattered monsters were once again attracted to one place. They surrounded the tree, layer after layer. 5 minutes later, Taoran sneaked to a bush. Seeing that her score had reached more than 3,800 points, she simply redeemed another 500 points for oil in one go. Taking advantage of the monster's attention being attracted by the fire at the top of the tree, she hunched her body through the bushes, throwing oil wherever she passed. More than a quarter of an hour later, when the tree tops were burned out and the monsters scattered again, Taoran stood in the bushes, sang a song again, and waved his arms at the monsters. When the monsters arrived, Taoran started to escape again. She runs and they chase her. Seeing the hordes of monsters all walking into the bush circle, she turned around and shot 3 arrows in succession behind her. She had just made preparations. She had already tied the heads of several arrows with dry grass soaked in oil. So turn on the lighter, ignite the arrow, and the arrow becomes a rocket. 3 arrows landed on the left, center, and right of the bush, and fire broke out in an instant. The silly monsters were running around, trying to escape without any plan, only to find that they were surrounded by fire. Tao Ran, on the other hand, stood outside the fire ring and began to pick up the leaks. Most of the monsters that were burned by the fire and rushed out of the fire circle were injured. In addition, they suddenly walked from the light into the dark, and their vision was damaged. How could they catch Tao Ran immediately? So Tao Ran unfolded his sword and stabbed accurately, trying his best to collect points and destroy monsters. Seeing that more and more monsters came out after reacting, she once again escaped in hiding. At this time, in addition to the monsters she killed with her own hands, at least dozens of monsters were caught in the ring of fire. It was not that they were killed by the fire, but that their hands and feet were burned by the fire, or they were seriously injured by being hit and trampled by their companions. Their attack power was greatly reduced, and they were almost no longer a threat. Tao Ran looked at the rising scores and was glad that the system not only awarded points for killing with her own hands, but also calculated points for indirect kills, such as monsters' self-mutilation and accidents. In this way, relying on various sneak attacks, seductions, plots and other tricks, Tao Ran not only succeeded in dragging most of the monsters to the bottom of the mountain, but also successfully hunted many, making his points reach the top of 4 that night. It bought a lot of time for everyone on the top of the mountain.